gentlemen go in search of a job. The HR person says, all right, here is a simple question we give as a screening question. If you pass this question, we will allow you to appear for our other interviews. It's a simple math question. The question was 1 divided by 0. Is it 0 or infinity? The first person says 1 divided by 0 is infinity. She says, second person please. Same question. The second person says, whatever the boss says. True enough, he was recruited. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What makes evaluations a thing to be dreaded, a thing to be avoided, a thing just causes contretemps? So much so that in a politically correct world, people do not want to take the risk of providing evaluations or opining. I see many Toastmasters here. Remember your own initial days of the journey. What was the first thing that you dreaded? Certainly it was not the speech, but providing evaluations. Why? Why? Because there is something inherent in each of us that craves for a positive evaluation, while also putting us in a difficult situation to provide one. Whether it is human or divine, the question, who do you think that people say that I am, is one of the basic fundamental questions that comes to us again and again. Now, you might have come with certain expectations on what this keynote address is going to be. Is it about evaluations on the speech evaluations? Or is it providing feedback or performance assessments at work if you're a manager? Well, I want to keep you thinking. By the time I'm done, you'll get the answer. The reason is, Henry Ford used to say, if I would have asked people what kind of car they wanted or vehicle they wanted, they would have said 100 horses or 1,000 horses. Up until Thomas Alva Edison, everybody thought of only creating more oil or a substance that could burn more in order to give light. He was the only person who appended that, who thought entirely differently. What can I find that does not burn but provides light? And that's what I want you to take away with this address of what evaluation is. When I chose the topic, profit by unleashing the dormant power of evaluations, I was thinking about the power of steam. If you think about it, steam is water, correct? And there is a difference between water, hot water, boiling water, and steam. And water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit, or if you are born in the rest of the world as we are, it boils at 100 degrees centigrade or 373 degrees Kelvin. But if you think about it, water and steam at 212 degrees Fahrenheit will measure the same. But you can never drive a steam engine with hot water at that temperature. All the electricity that you are seeing, for the most part, whether they are generated by coal plants or nuclear power plants, it is all about the work of the turbine. And what turns the turbine? Steam. So what makes steam the steam and not hot water? In fact, if you have water at 212 degrees Fahrenheit and steam at 212 degrees Fahrenheit, the damage to your skin will be several hundred times more than water at the same temperature. That's because steam possesses the heat of vaporization. It is otherwise called as latent heat. And that is what I call it as dormant. Unleash the dormant power by evaluations. Why do I say that? Let's go step by step. As my friend, Mr. Finecountry, gave the introduction, when I joined the Toastmasters, I set my own personal motto. And that was, I am empowered when others are. And I truly mean and live by it each day. And I find evaluations or providing evaluations as a part of that empowerment process. Evaluations, number one, is an act of empowering others. And let me share you a couple of stories here. A couple of weeks back, I visited a club. And there was this product manager, a very tall-built lady, giving a fantastic speech. But she shared one of the stories as to why she is having what's called as glossophobia, or fear of public speaking. And that touched me. I will just call her as Sona. And Sona was saying that when she used to be a small child, there were a lot of problems in her family. And her mom was really stressed to the extremes. And there were other siblings. So the only time she would even address this kid was when something was going wrong. So anytime it was, do this or don't do this, or why did you do this, it was always a reprimand. Fast forward to where she is, in one of the best companies that you can think of, in a very powerful position. But every time she is in front of people, the notion of her being judged or reprimanded harshly comes into picture. And that saps of that power and shackles her. The second is a story I want to share about myself, which I have not shared anywhere else. As you know, English is not my native language. There we go. So much for a disclosure. When I was going from my kindergarten to my first grade, I was put in a Catholic convent school. So naturally, some of my relatives wanted to poke fun at me, and they called me, and I still vividly remember them asking me to say the word congratulations. As you know, it was a tough word for me at the time. I can still remember how I faltered, and faltered, to the amusement of all the folks in the room. Congratulation, so on and so forth. And that was enough to drag me down. Because anytime I wanted to appreciate somebody, I would just stay mum. Because it would constantly remind me of my failing. So it was in my 11th grade when I realized that I could also be an orator, but that was in my native tongue. So all through my 12 years of schooling, never ever can I recollect of giving a speech in English. And even when it was to appreciate others, I could not, because I did not feel empowered. And I was constantly worried about being judged, that I cannot put words out. And this, my dear friends, are some of the stories that you're going to see in the people that you're going to evaluate. So how are you going to empower them? An evaluator, first and foremost, should think of himself or herself as an incubator. People are just like the eggs that our good magicians show. We should hatch what is innate and within the cocoon or the shell of those eggs. And we can do that by several other ways: guidelines, rubrics, eye contact. What we do in Toastmasters, we always talk about eye contact, having a visual with the audience, making the body language, vocal variety, and whatnot. If it is a manager, we talk about how to improve the organization, how to be people-friendly, and inculcating smart skills and soft skills, so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, it is about that egg that needs to be hatched. And that is possible by empowering folks. The best way that we can do is by providing an evaluation. And when we evaluate, we say, oh, everything is great, I have no extra comments to give you. That is a poor evaluation as well. Oh, you are not good. I couldn't really comprehend what you are saying. That's the other end of the spectrum. Not a good evaluation again. Where is that sweet spot that we are going to hit that is going to empower others? Because that one harsh criticism or one wrong way of evaluating a person could have sapped that person from ever giving a speech or ever complimenting a person saying, congratulations, kudos to you. I have had members in clubs with vocal paralysis, vocal cord paralysis, and other stammering and other disabilities. That is not the time to stand and evaluate them how they could avoid filler words. Or there was once a person who is from a different part of the world who cannot say the sounds of the sha, sa, but always manage it with ja, knowing from which culture he is coming from and what kind of words that language has. I was able to talk to him in private and help him as to how he can improve on those. Again, there is always a dichotomy between what should be said in public and what can be said in private. And that's a part of empowerment as well, as an evaluator. So, evaluation is an act of empowering others, number one. Number two, evaluations is an abject act of compassion and empathy. It is. Once when I was in a club, let me call her as Katie. All the rest of the folks in the room were men. And Katie was the only female in the room. And she was trying to master the art of public speaking. And in the table topics, I vividly remember the topic that was given to her was, what is it that you are very proud of? Everything started fine. It was a small room. And she was talking about how she had confronted all the difficulties and still she is the person that she is. But somewhere around the 1 minute mark, I could see her hands shivering. Was her demeanor when it came to how she was trying to speak amid some difficulty. And I was thinking maybe the room temperature is not good. Or maybe she's getting some shivers. Almost within the next 5 seconds, she broke into tears. Tears were flowing like a river. But she did not go back and sit. She completed her speech. On that day, I was the table topics master. Here is a room full of men, and she was the only woman. And she broke down into tears. If I go to the podium, I should be not looked down as being condescending. Neither can I be insouciant or indifferent by pretending as though nothing of that sort happened. So I went back and I said, let's give a big hand to Katie, because she had the opportunity to excuse herself and go back and sit. She didn't do that. She could have just stood there awkwardly and wiped her face with Kleenex. She didn't do that. She fought against herself, and I said, Katie, today you graduated out of the school of public speaking. Because regardless of who your audience is, you are able to confront your vulnerability. And that is what it is. Because I was able to relate to her empathetically, because not too long ago, I was in a similar position, although the stage wasn't back in India. Because that's exactly how my first speech started. Started with a big debacle. Each year, we lose 120,000 people in this country for work-related stress ailments. Close to $200 billion we lose each year. That's roughly 5 to 8% of the health care. And think about it, even in all the clubs that we manage, we are seeing people from the workforce, be it Toastmasters, or even in clubs like these, where it is more of working professionals trying to network. Or even at work, if you're a manager, you could be evaluating or assessing somebody who might be already stressed. You see, our body system, we have two networks, the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system has the norepinephrine, the epinephrine, and cortisol. Think about what they do. Before that, let me kind of, to lighten the mood, share one of my favorite tales. I always take recourse to the Nasruddin tales, which is more on the Middle East. So Nasruddin once was thinking philosophically, what makes a living person a living being or dead? His wife was cooking, and she said, you men are always problematic. Why can't you think straightforward like us women? Why don't you understand that in order to see whether you are alive or dead, all you need to see is look at the extremities of your body. If it is stiff and if it is cold, the person is dead. Nasruddin was, oh, okay, I will take that. Yeah, that's good. And one day when he was going, it was snowing. Within minutes, his hands and feet started becoming numb, and extremities were very cold and very stiff. So he reminded, that's what my wife said. So I am dead. So he just pretended as though he is dead. Now, a few travelers were passing by, and they stopped by. And then he told to himself, whoop, I should pretend I am dead because I am dead. I am dead. And the travelers were discussing, does this person look like he's dead? And they come and they touch, and they feel, oh, he's not even moving. So he is dead. And so they take him and they move towards the cemetery, thinking that they are going towards the cemetery. And just around that end, it was a fork. And there was a confusion. Is the cemetery on the left, or should we be going towards the right to the cemetery? And that's it. Nasruddin now snapped. Come on, my dear guys, I can't be lying like this. You got to take that right route, because that's what takes to the cemetery. I do know that a dead body should not be speaking, but I violated that edict. This is the only time I will violate and I'm going back to my state. You could have guessed what those travelers could have thought. Although it is funny, I want to also get philosophical here. Think about it. But always there's the clash between reality and hard-held belief. Reality loses. If I am coming from a belief that says, I can't speak in English in a way where the native audience can understand, I am coming with that kind of strong credo or a belief. It is the role of the evaluator, the incubator, who needs to assure me that I too can. And that is the art of dealing with people with rigid beliefs and winning them over with compassion and empathy. Many of the people that I have mentored have come with that background. And that leads to the third one. Providing evaluations is an act of creative art. Creativity. I deal with youth Toastmasters, kids ranging from 5th grade, 6th grade, and 7th grade, and whatnot. And doing evaluations for the kids is one of the most difficult things. You try to even provide a little bit of positive suggestions, they can get anxious and they can get worried that you are criticizing them. But you have to hit that sweet spot. But it is also with those kids that I have learned many things about public speaking. Just 2 weeks back, one of the child, her title was A Sleepless Night with a Dracula. Yeah, spooky, right? But she was talking about mosquito. You see, if a speaker can muster that kind of creativity, how well we can do as evaluators. Because let's go back to the etymology of the word evaluation. Evaluation comes from medieval Latin and French. If you think about it, there is a E, which means out. Evaluate. Value in medieval Latin and French also meant value, which means bravery, and value, which also means worth. So as an evaluator, we are not there to critique. We are there to, as the word suggests, evaluate, extract the worth of the other person that we are evaluating. It's as simple as that. The very word suggests that. And when it is time for you to pay the ad valorem taxes, you are talking about the same value that I'm talking about. So even the English language beautifully connotes what evaluation means. And that is where we need to get creative. How are we going to extract those creative juices and provide them with the feedback and assessment that brings out their bravery, their valor, and their value out? Because you remember, we all could be losing ourselves on details or the so-called rubrics. I have had many people come and ask, oh, besides the eye contact, besides the vocal variety, besides the body language, how can I give a speech evaluation? Look for many things, right from the title, right from the way the person connects, and how the thought process has gone throughout the entire. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Exactly. Yeah, chances of that happening, exactly. So, the next point I wanted to also leave with you is another story that comes to my mind is about how we as evaluators might go over and beyond with those details just as what Nasruddin did. You see, he was a prime minister at the king's palace. So he comes and he looks at a falcon, a royal falcon. And up until that time, all he knew was pigeon. So he says, this pigeon looks different, but it needs a little bit of pruning. And then he takes the blade, tries to cut the paws a little bit and the feathers a little bit. And then he tells, you pigeon, even your creator has given up on you. And look what I have done to you. Now you look better. You see? We could be doing that, just that. Evaluations is not just about adherence to a strict coda of laws, rubrics, or dogmas. At a fundamental level, it is about meeting the other person where they are and giving them that wings. There was once a gentleman who was around, I would say, late 50s. He always used to attend our meetings as a guest, but he just could not decide to join. And one day he came and said, Rex, I really like what you guys are doing. I'm afraid to be standing up there and give speeches because I believe I will be judged. So if I were to stand there, I might collapse. That's what he said. I would give him a name, Jay. And then I said, Jay, why would you think that way? No, I'm just feeling that way. And then I asked him, so where are you from? He said, I'm from Pakistan. So I said, in our club, there is nobody who knows about Pakistan as well as you do. So you are the expert of Pakistan. Talk about your childhood. Talk about your pains of leaving your country and being here, or vice versa. Talk about marriages, weddings. How are they celebrated in your country? Because through your eyes, I can see Pakistan. At least there's one member from my club, and he can relate to this, because this person that I'm nicknaming as Jay has risen up as one of the motivation speakers in our club. All I did was just to say that you'll be my eyes for Pakistan. Again, get creative in your evaluations, and evaluations need not be just in front of a podium. Evaluations is 24/7, 365 days, 60 hours a year. Meaning, there are numerous opportunities. Because, as I said, evaluations is all about meeting people where they are, with their fears, with their anxieties, and then assuring them, giving them those wings, not clipping like what Nasruddin did. Because if we are always attached to the rubrics, the dogmas, the rules, the numbers, here is the final story I want to leave with you. Again, a Nasruddin story. Nasruddin was selling eggs. So one day, one person comes and he says, I have an object and you have to guess what that object is. And then Nasruddin says, well, I can figure it out if you can give me the clues. And then he says, I won't be giving you just one clue. I'll give you many clues. And then he says, it looks white in color, like an egg. And inside it, it is liquid when it is uncooked, but it can get thick when it is cooked. It looks like an egg. It smells like an egg. And moreover, above all, it was laid by a hand. So go, what is this object that I have in my hand? And then Nasruddin says, sure enough, that sounds like a cake. My dear friends, we all could be erring, just like Nasruddin did, when we are too much focused on the rules, on the dogmas. Okay, here is the PDA report. You check out for good, better, needs improvement, satisfactory. Did the speaker do this? Did the speaker do that? Because you remember what I spoke about, that joke, that story, about Nasruddin, presuming that he is dead. Going back to where I left, the epinephrine and cortisol and norepinephrine, they are going to constrict the capillaries and immediately suck the blood so that they can power the muscles. Which is why when you criticize somebody, when you put them in a tough spot, they immediately stiffen up. Which means the pull, because remember, in our human body, the blood travels roughly 7.5 miles. And when there's a short supply of blood, even the blood from the brains are sucked into because it needs to go and supply the muscles. Which is exactly why you can never get anything accomplished by criticizing somebody. Now, science is just against that. True enough, stress is required. But you see, stress is required to survive, but not to thrive. It's a very big difference. So the stress to just show up to give a speech, yes, it's required. But, oh, what a shabby speech that was. Oh, you need to do this. You are referring to notes. You didn't do that. If we start going that route, it saps everything because the person is going to get defensive, number one. Or if it's a performance evaluation, the person is going to say, I was working so hard. And you are telling me that I didn't do anything. So that is the defensive. But there is an opposite system, which I said, the parasympathetic nervous system. That is the one that secretes oxytocin in women and vasopressin in men. That's why when you listen to euphonious music, you feel like very loving, very kind, and very gentle. Versus watching something that is like a thriller movie or a horror movie, you see stiffening up again. Very same things. So it goes back to how you can inadvertently push people to extreme stress on top of what they might already be having without you realizing about the negative impact of negative evaluations or negative assessments. So, to sum up, evaluations, number one, is an absolute act of empowering others. Number two, is an absolute act of compassion with empathy. And third, evaluation is a creative art, not the rubrics, not the dogmas. With this kind of a perspective, if we can approach evaluations, sure, we all can be better evaluators because there's always something positive to be called out. If a person who could not say the word congratulations can stand here without referencing any notes and give a speech on positive evaluations in a language that is not his native language, just imagine the possibilities that we can all bring out of every man and woman that we come across. Thank you.